2 minutes.
You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go. Oh no. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. I say hi, you say no, you say why, and I say I don't know. Oh no. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Oh no. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go. Oh no. You say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello.
Prospect coming out of high school than either Riley Leonard or Carson Becky. Got hit again. The ball's out. R.J. Oben knocked it out. And junior Tuiala Maka has it for Notre Dame. Play fake. Leonard in the end zone. Touchdown Irish. Bo Collins with the first touchdown of this game.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. We're back after last week, and we have an old friend joining us this evening. Good old George Bashura from Shakedown Thunder Sports joining us tonight. George, welcome back to the program. And your Irish are one step away from going back to Atlanta for the national championship. You've been eluding them since 1988. I know I made a nasty comment on Twitter, Facebook the other day.
I'm still waiting for my public apology, by the way.
Chris, it's I would apologize.
Okay, George, I'm sorry, but I was just proving the fact because I was just thinking the other day when I was watching the game, going, wait a minute, my Seminoles have more national titles than your Irish do, and you still have the 13-time champion.
Chris, I'm taking receipts, as they say nowadays. I'm taking receipts.
Fine. That's one check mark.
Yes. So Adam's there. Matt finally got some lighting. Thank God, Matt, you got some lighting in the program.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I guess Mike Gross sent him a check in the mail. Did you get a check in the mail from Mike Gross for that?
No one sent me a check yet. So, but
Mike?
Chris, maybe you and Adam can send me a check.
Sure.
What did Randy Peterson say? We had him on the show before Christmas. The checks. I told him the checks in the mail.
Yes, that's right.
So we got a full great show tonight here. We're going to start off. We have a change in the schedule. Nathan Baird, who used to work for the Ohio State sports, he's now does Purdue. We're going to talk Big Ten basketball, and our good friend Adam Jen Lewis will be joining us at 6:45. And then at 7:05, we'll have Donny Lynn, the head men's basketball coach at Mount St. Mary's, who knocked off Miami during the holidays. Who basically that was his last game for Coach Leganera, who basically retired. And then at 7:15, we'll have Jarrod Prugar, who covers Penn State for Nittany SN, and we'll have our we have a good guest coming on. ESPN broadcast, Sean McDonough will be joining us. We'll talk the Orange Bowl preview because the Irish and Penn State are going to play each other for the first time since 2017, right, George?
Yep.
Been a long time. I did some research today. The Irish media people kind of missed up on the game notes because.
Oh yeah.
They said they played in the Gator Bowl in 1977. That's false. It's 1976 Gator Bowl. So
Big difference.
Big difference, yeah.
True that. Yes.
And then they also messed up again later in the press release because they said they played Florida State in 95. That was actually 90. That was actually 93. In the Orange Bowl or something like that, around there. Yeah.
I'll give Alan a call tomorrow and say, hey, buddy, clean up your stuff.
I know. It's like, you're sending it out there. So, Adam, you want to welcome the next guest?
Sure. Folks, this time of the year, the Big Ten is not only it's a football conference, but it's also a men's basketball conference. And with the addition of 4 new schools, it's the Big Ten is as strong as ever. And joining us now to talk some Purdue men's basketball because they are undefeated at home, and their next game is in Piscataway, New Jersey, against Rutgers, and they have a solid freshman. Is Nathan Baird, who works for the Indy Star, a great newspaper out there in Indianapolis, Indiana. So Nathan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And you guys are undefeated at home. You guys have played a really good non-conference schedule. You played NC State at a neutral site in San Diego over Thanksgiving, and just talk about this game going on the road against Rutgers, where Rutgers has a star freshman player.
Yeah, a couple of star freshman players, and it's going to be an interesting contrast between a Purdue team that's really led by these 3 veteran savvy guys that people around the Big Ten know very well by now. Braden Smith it was just named Big Ten Player of the Week this week. Trey Coffin-Wren won that award earlier this year, and Fletcher Lawyer. Those are all guys who started on last year's national championship runner-up team. And road trips have been interesting for this team this year. They did not play that well at Marquette, but Marquette was responsible for that. Did not play that well at Penn State. Penn State was in large part responsible for that, although they were down by, I think, 27 with 10 minutes to play, and a game that was not as close as the score indicates. They did have some good neutral site results, like you were talking about, NC State and Ole Miss, but just recently went down to Auburn and got really clobbered. Now, Auburn's one of the best teams in the country. Penn State is better than I think people thought was going to be at the start of the year. Marquette obviously is also always very good with Shaka Smart and what they do defensively. So it has been a very tough schedule, but I think this is still a team, even after it just went on the road and beat Minnesota by 20 earlier this week, last week. A lot of people are beating Minnesota by good scores this season, unfortunately. So I think a game like this, even though Rutgers has had some ups and downs too, I believe they're either 8-6, 9-6, something like that coming into this game. Because of the talent there with Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, and what those guys can do, what they have done on the court this year, even though Rutgers hasn't put it together as a team, I think Purdue is going to still look at this as they're still in a bit of a prove-it situation when it comes to showing that they can go on the road and avoid some of the things that have led to their losses.
I agree. Yeah, and Nathan, it's pretty with this Big Ten, it's funny. You have Maryland, who went out there to the West Coast to play UCLA and Washington, and I'm thinking, to me, that's still non-conference, because I'm not used to the Pac-12 yet coming back over to the Big Ten, and like, okay, I guess it's a Big Ten game then. But what's your take on having all these teams now from the Pac-12 into the men's basketball and the Big Ten, and it's going to be like a lot of games for all these schools to go out west?
Well, what I think is interesting is the way that these teams have kind of just shown up right away and tried to sort of play spoiler to the Midwest. And I know that you guys have a different perspective being there on the East Coast of Maryland, but still, this is still largely a Midwestern conference. It's where this conference, most of its pride, I think, is still based in this Midwestern roots and culture and history. And right away, you have UCLA and Oregon showing up and doing the things that they've done early this season, including, like you said, being part of that rough road trip for Maryland. And Purdue has to make that same road trip next week, by the way. I'm out there trying to figure out my travel logistics, flying to Portland, driving to Seattle, driving to Eugene. It's a crazy time to be in the Big Ten. But both UCLA and Oregon had done that. And then Washington beating Maryland, I thought, was a bit of a statement for a Washington team that had not looked great early on, but also hadn't really played a schedule that tested it very much. I think they have a good foundation that they're setting there with Danny Sprinkle. Purdue played him in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago at Utah, or just last season, actually, it was at Utah State. He's a guy that's been building a reputation and has some work to do at Washington. But they gave Illinois a game, gave Illinois all it wanted, and beating Maryland, a team that had been playing really well. And when you looked at the analytics, Maryland had some of these sites were saying Maryland was as good or better than any other team in the Big Ten over the past first couple months of the season. So now that's what I think has maybe been, when we back at the Big Ten Media Day, there was a lot of conversation around, not so much as there was during football, but still, like, how are these West Coast teams going to adapt to the Big Ten? Maybe the biggest concern for them was travel, which is an even bigger issue than it is for a football team that only has to go, they can build towards it around the week. You're not having to make multiple road trips just constantly throughout a season the same way. And so far, the West Coast teams are holding their own and then some.
That's true. George, you have a question, big guy?
So Nathan, just by the way, my daughter almost attended Purdue this year. She opted and went down to DePaul, so she's fighting the snow like you were today. So
yeah, I was actually out shoveling snow very close up until tip-off time for us here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good exercise, Nathan. I mean,
Yeah, that's my exercise for the winter.
there you go.
We're just cold up here. We're just cold up here in northern Indiana. So, quickly, the Purdue comes up short last year, right? And this year, there's typically a hangover, right? You get so close, and then it's hard for a team to battle back. It's amazing how they didn't let last year's loss affect their psyche, and they're doing so well to start off the season.
Well, I think one thing that helped that from a psyche standpoint is Zach Edey was what that team was built around. I mean, two-time National Player of the Year, generational kind of talent. He was the 99th percentile of what Purdue had been trying to do with its big men for going back most of Matt Painter's career. And you can go back and look at just the guys that I covered from when I was covering this team prior, but AJ Hammonds and Isaac Haas and then Matt Harms. And there were always like some version of these big men that had different skills, but Edey coming in and being even bigger than all of them, but then also even more skilled than all of them and just a better all-around talent. So you lose him, and even though you bring back three starters, I think people, and they were the preseason favorite too in the media poll and everything, but they still came into this season with a bit of a chip on their shoulder to say, well, now everyone, all the questions, they're still getting questions about, well, now that you don't have Zach Edey, I mean, it's January and people are still asking him, and they're going to be asking him that until March. I mean, that's just how it goes. But I think this team came in knowing that not only did it have something to prove without Edey, but its identity had to change. It could not be, even though they brought in a freshman, a 7'4" freshman, and Daniel Jacobson, who unfortunately got hurt in the first minute of the second game of the year and is done for the year. Even he was a very different kind of player than Edey, more of a perimeter player, and was going to be obviously much younger, more raw at this stage of his career. So even if he had been healthy, this would still be a very different team in terms of its identity. And in some ways, maybe the identity is that it doesn't have an identity. It's been adaptable so far. They tried using their other 7-footers more early on. They weren't getting the production they wanted, so they moved Trey Coffin-Wren, who's only 6'9". They've made him the 5 for a long stretch this season. We're having some success with that, but weren't getting what they wanted rebounding-wise, had some other issues defensively. So now they've put Caleb First, who's a fourth-year guy, back into the starting lineup where he hadn't been for a couple of years, and that's for right now kind of galvanized things and been a catalyst, and they've played better once he's been back in the lineup here these last couple of weeks. So moving some things around. They've got some freshmen they like. They've been in and out of the starting lineup. It's just a new team, even though it is a carryover in name and a carryover in 3 starters from that team. It's still a very different experience to be on a court with Purdue basketball this year for opponents. And I think that has maybe helped them avoid that thing that you're talking about where it isn't, they kept enough of the old, but it's new enough that there maybe, in theory, it could be the best of both things, that you've still got that chip on your shoulder, but you can also rely on the experience of been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. Adam, you have a question?
Yeah, so obviously now with big you mentioned, the 4 West Coast schools that came in, to the Big Ten this year. I want to shift, to talk about Big Ten football, because obviously we have 2 teams from the Big Ten who are playing in the college football playoff semifinals over these next couple days. And would you say, Nathan, that the Big Ten right now is the best football conference in the country?
I don't really even know what the argument would be against that right now. I mean, you have, last year's 2 participants in the national championship game were in this conference this year. One of them just went head-to-head against Alabama for the second year in a row and beat them without several of their best players, being Michigan. And then now you're going to have, I think Ohio State's going to come out of this side of the bracket. I think, Texas, just the way it has played and the way Ohio State has played tells you where there's a disparity in talent. Now, you can't, the games aren't played on paper, but I think Ohio State might have another fairly comfortable win coming up to move it into the championship game. And that's a team that I think you guys said in my intro, I covered them for the last 5 years. So I've watched them amass the talent that they have this year. And it was sort of the way that you might have assumed an SEC team, and some of them have done it, have similarly just piled up talent over the course of one offseason to try to make a run like this. And right now, they've had their stumbles along the way, notably that Michigan game, but right now they look like the best team in the country again. And on the other side of things, you're either going to have Penn State, a true Big Ten program who gave Oregon all they wanted in the Big Ten championship game, or Notre Dame, which is almost a de facto Big Ten program in some ways. Like, they're right here in Indiana. They're obviously more associated with the ACC in terms of actually playing the games, but there's still a mentality and a culture that is very similar to the Big Ten itself. So I think what's happening right now is there has been a paradigm shift, and especially a lot of the credit that the SEC got, and there's been great football played in the SEC. I'm not saying that there hasn't. And there have been times where it's been clear that was the best team in the country. But there was also a factor here where people looked at what Alabama was doing in any given year, and then later on kind of with Georgia too, and tried to take what was true about them and make it true about every team in that conference. And when you looked farther down the list into even head-to-head bowl results sometimes against the Big Ten, it just didn't follow over. And now that Alabama, without the mystique of Nick Saban, looks like a much more ordinary program, and now that Georgia has come off of its ultimate peak of the back-to-back championships and looks still very strong, but not clearly the top tier, or unquestionably the top tier, it's just been the Big Ten's time to step up. And now I think it's interesting, do you see Ohio State and or Penn State step up? If we get an Ohio State Penn State national championship game, and that's 2 years in a row where it's two current Big Ten programs playing for the national championship. But Washington wasn't at the time, but is now. And it's 4 different teams too. That would be, if that happened in the SEC, where it was, Alabama against Georgia one year and LSU against, Florida the next year, they would be losing their minds, thumping their chest about how great the SEC is. So I think absolutely the Big Ten, people in the North and the people that follow the Big Ten need to step up and maybe be similarly obnoxious about their fandom and start thumping their chests a little bit, because I think right now this is the best conference in college football. Not with much assistance from Purdue, I will admit, from this past season, but other teams are stepping up.
Mm-hmm. Matt, you got the last question. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So, the likelihood. So do you think there's going to be an Ohio State Notre Dame matchup? And if you do think that, then do you think Ohio State's going to win it all, or Notre Dame will win it all?
That was actually what I predicted at the start of this. I just thought Ohio State still was the most talented team in the country. And other than that Michigan game, which you can sort of set aside as being just something that's in Ryan Day's head or that program psyche or something, that they approach that game differently than any other game, and they approach it incorrectly sometimes. I mean, their other loss was 1 point on the road at Oregon in a weird game where there were some things that happened at the end of that game. A weird call against Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, if he had slides 1 second earlier, they're trying a long field goal. Like, they might've even won that game. So they were right there. And when you looked at just the total talent that they had, I still thought that was going to shine through. I thought that they would beat Tennessee. I thought they would have the edge against Oregon. And then I liked whatever was coming out of the other side of that bracket. So I thought they would make it. And then Notre Dame on paper, I mean, you could go look, there were some of the guys that I know that really crunched the numbers from a betting standpoint. There were power rankings out there that had Notre Dame as the number 1 team in the country coming into the playoff. And yes, they have that weird, ugly, stupid Northern Illinois loss on their schedule. Which
they needed that loss, by the way.
Yeah, probably, but it was also opened the door, I think, for 66-7 what they did to Purdue the next week. I think Purdue needed to catch them on their down week instead of having been woken up by Northern Illinois. But ever since then, and they haven't played a monster schedule by any means, but just the way that they've sort of methodically been thumping people since then, it started to feel a little bit like the 2014 Ohio State National Championship, where they took a weird home loss to a better program in Virginia Tech with everything Frank Beamer had done. I would put them above what Northern Illinois is, but at the same time, it was just a strange kind of out of character loss, and then rising from there and just kind of going on a tear and making it all the way through and winning the national championship. So those are the two teams that I thought were going to end up playing for the national championship. I would still give the edge to Ohio State, because I still think that Ohio State, just position for position, is the most talented team in the country. They have a depth of talent. They've been able to absorb a couple of huge offensive line losses, and now that unit is starting to play better after having some really shaky weeks. And the defense, if they can replicate what they did against Oregon the rest of this tournament, I mean, that shutdown where they're up 34-0, that was led by that defense. As much as Jeremiah Smith and Will Howard and Trayvon Henderson got noticed for what they did in that game, that defense just whipped a really, really, really good Oregon offense. And if they can replicate that, I don't know that any team in the country is going to then be able to score enough to keep up with what they can do on the other side of the ball.
Exactly. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, and don't pull any muscles shoveling snow.
I think I'm done with the snow. Hopefully the snow is done with me, and I'm done with the snow for a while.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot.
All right, see you. Bye.
Thanks, Nathan.
All right. It's Nathan Baird, who used to write for Ohio State. Now he's out in Indiana with the Indiana Star covering Purdue. Let's bring our next guest. Adam, we know this young lady really well because
it's called George. It's called you. Yeah, it's called George. Wait till you meet her, because she was with Chris and I at the ACC championship game, and she just recently covered her first ever bowl game, the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, between Minnesota and Virginia Tech. So to recap the game, the founder and commentator of the podcast I've appeared on, Three Chicks in the Pod. I wonder if she has any snow in Charlotte. Our good friend Jen Lewis. So Jen, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and just talk about your experience covering a bowl game, for the first time ever at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for not saying how we initially met with,
Yes, we are. Yeah. You want to say, you want to mention how we met
I just
Jen?
did,
Because George doesn't know.
Yeah, George doesn't know the story, so let me tell this George's story. Okay?
Yep.
I'm sitting
Now you get to relive it. See.
Yeah, we're
Yes,
sitting at the ACC championship last year between Florida State and Louisville, and I'm sitting next to this lady. It's Jen, and she's choking on something. I don't know what the heck she was choking on, or
coughing. I was trying not to cough out loud.
And I'm looking over to myself, and Matt's next to me, and Adam's next to me. I look over and go, "Is this shit going to go down? And what am I going to do?" I'm thinking CPR. I may have to do something. And I look over, I'm like, "You okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I was choking. I was choking on a Dr. Pepper." I'm like, gotcha. So now that the running joke is, when she interviews people that she met a couple of years ago, she's not choking on a Dr. Pepper. So.
That's right.
I had just a little background, George. I had been really sick, and so I was like drinking things not to cough. And then the best part was both coaches gave me bottles of water.
That's right.
Crazy. But hey,
so I will
Chris,
give a shout out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we didn't do this at the ACC championship game, but the really awesome lady, Melissa, that I was sitting next to this past time was like, "You've got to try the Froyo." Y'all, that was easily the best frozen yogurt I have had since I was a kid.
wow.
Side note, so shout out to Bank of America Stadium for that. But it was a blast. It was my first bowl game. I wasn't allowed on the field, which by Bank of America security, because they were doing their job, but I was showing them the emails that I should be allowed post game on the field for the Mayo bath.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Well, we don't know who this person is." And I was like, "Okay," but they were doing their jobs, so I'm not mad at that, right? I was just disappointed I didn't get upfront video or photos of it, but that's okay. Next time, right?
It could be worse, Jennifer. It could be worse.
Exactly. Yeah. Could be worse.
Well, Chris and I have a history. I'm going down to the Cotton Bowl in Texas, and I'm with my Shakedown of Thunder Sports. I'm the editor.
Okay.
And I'm fully credentialed. Know that was supposed to be going down to the field, had full credentials, whatever. They said, "Nope, we don't have a spot for you up in the press box. You're going to sit in the back underneath the stadium and be in the back room with everybody else." And then I meet Chris a couple of years later. He's like, "Yeah, I wasn't supposed to have field credentials and press box, but they gave it to me." And I'm like, "You're the guy that took my credential for being in the press box." So
but
I get the feeling about going to an event, supposedly having that access, and then you don't. It hurts.
Yeah, but there's a photograph of him walking past Jerome Bennis, and it's on ESPN. So, there's George just walking by, and there's Jerome Bennis coming off the field. So
yeah.
That's better. That's better than nothing, right, George?
Better than nothing. Hey, I got a shot of the back of Flava Flav.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I started to wait around, and then I was like, I'm getting tired. I had started work at 7:30 or 8 that morning on Friday morning, and this is our busy time of the month, and so this is when it's kind of crazy at work, and I was like, I'm getting really tired. I'm too old.
Well, it's called now, George. It's called after the ACC championship game. We all went. Chris and I and Jen. We went. Well, while we were waiting for Dabo Sweeney, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, George, and Dan said, "I had enough." You left, Jen.
I left.
And then
I was like, "Would you be mad if I leave?" Like Dabo was taking a sweet old time getting out there.
No.
And he was like, "I don't care, go." I was like,
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's called. Chris and I did not get back to our hotel room until 2:30 in the morning, George. And Chris can tell you, Chris, how zonked out was I at it's called.
Well, with me, we both passed out and we woke up
We
next
did?
morning down to breakfast. You know?
Yes, yep. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did,
Yeah.
George. Yeah, it was well, yeah. So Jen, it's called. We have obviously we have to talk about the Carolina Panthers after the victory yesterday versus the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay,
And
we'll talk about that in a minute. But like honestly, I will say this. At the Duke Mayo Bowl, the Golden Gophers fan base, like I mean, obviously there were more Vatek fans there because, you know, we're 3 hours away from, you know, Hokie Stadium, Hokie region.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Vatek has a huge presence of like alumni here in Charlotte.
Wow.
So I really thought it was going to be 100% pretty much just a few like Golden Gopher fans, but I was impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I'll say this, John Love of Tech, their kicker, this young man is so impressive. He's so sweet and just considerate. And he's had he's had 2 or 3 field goals this year that have been longer than some NFL kickers this year.
Oh, wow.
In the same season. Like, he set a Mayo Bowl classic. He broke it from another Virginia Tech Hokie kicker back in 2007. Because it was like the Bell Bowl, something else before that. I forgot what it was before that. But and this led to their 8th bowl victory in a row.
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really pay attention to, you know, Wisconsin sports. I'm sorry, I just don't. But our Minnesota sports or Wisconsin actually, except for the Timberwolves. But I was so impressed. I was truly impressed. Like the fan base was there. They were all into their team. They were giving Hokie fans a run for their money with the cheers. Obviously, I mean, they killed the Hokies. Like the numbers alone just don't lie. And I did get some pictures of Coach Fleck after he got drenched in mayonnaise. And I love the fact that he like went up and was like looking at the mayo, like, I'm going to drink some of it, like get some of those pictures. But in all honesty, like both Max Brossemer and William Watson III, they're the quarterbacks for the respective teams, did great. Well, William Watson didn't do it as good, obviously. He had 81 yards to Max's 211 yards.
Right.
But, I mean, they were just 2 teams that were just – even though the Hokies got beat, they were still a solid unit. I don't know if y'all were able to watch it or not, but I felt like they were still a solid unit. Like they just, I mean, Minnesota was just better.
Yeah. Well, I think Virginia Tech is going to get better next year. I think right now in the ACC, like everybody in this conference struggled this year. You know, we know about Florida State's track record of 2-10, and then Clemson had to get a game-winning field goal at the ACC championship game to beat SMU. And then goes down to Texas and get manhandled by a Texas squad, you know. But yeah, and the ACC, what George went 0-10 in the bowl game this year. Yeah, so there's something going on. You know, maybe we need to, you know, this, you know, maybe the ACC needs to get a little bit bigger and beefier, or if you're Miami, you just have your starter, you know, Cam Ward just play up the first half and sit on the sidelines when your team needs you to score the final point. You know.
That might be helpful.
Yeah, but
Chris, these conferences are changing so much,
right?
They are.
You know, and it's going to be harder to keep the talent coming to what you want to call an East Coast conference,
right?
You know what I'm saying? You can go play on the West Coast, but you can come play at home in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, you can still come home and see mom and dad.
Right. I agree.
Well,
And
and
it was-
I'll
it's-
say this,
yeah.
like I think next season, I said it this year when we were asked during media day for kickoff who the surprise team of ACC was going to be this year. And on local radio, they were kind of making fun of that media rep who said Boston College, but Boston College was a surprise team this year, and I caught it. And yeah. I'll own it because I mean they were beating teams. They lost to SMU. The teams they lost to are solid. They're they were playoff bound. SMU kind of got in their heads, I guess, during bowl season.
Right.
For them to even, they killed. I hate that they lost to Nebraska. I really wanted them to beat Nebraska for personal reasons. Yeah.
Well, like I said, now with this whole transfer portal, you can just leave your team right after a bowl game or during the bowl practice, and then you go, oh, I want to go to this place. You saw Florida State just picked up the guy from Boston College.
Thomas, yeah.
So we have him now, and then Florida State lost their quarterback, to Mississippi State because he left, and then DJ Ungale is now going to play for the NFL draft. I don't even think a CFL team is going to pick him up anyway because he stinks.
Don't worry, the Panthers will.
Giants will pick him up.
Yeah, it's because the Giants need a quarter. It's because the Giants, or maybe even the tennis.
No, Adam. The Giants are going to pick him. They're just going to keep me away for another 4 years.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's all right. I'm being kept away from my Panthers too, George. I understand.
Yeah, it's because the Panthers have their quarterback. They have their quarterback in Bryce Young, who has finally matured. Well,
honestly, I'm glad Canales, and I said this to you too, like off record, but I'm glad Canales had the gumption and the confidence in himself,
right,
to bench Bryce, because there were rumors there was something going on in Bryce's personal life at between the end of preseason and the start of the regular season, that really messed with his head. And that was my index finger, not my middle finger, just for clarification. And but
I get it all the time.
When he got sat for Andy, that was the best thing for Bryce. Bright and my dad and I had been saying that all season, or even last year, sit Bryce, let him sit behind an NFL quarterback to see how it's done.
Right.
Because my unpopular opinion is, yes, Nick Saban, amazing football coach, no doubt. Not a great quarterback coach. Look at his NFL quarterback coach. They're great, but it takes I feel like it takes more years for them to get acclimated to the NFL than players from like Auburn or Stanford. That's just me. But
well, that could be because they play teams and they don't struggle, right? They come to the NFL, you got to play men.
Yeah.
And the game moves at a different pace, and the change or the acclimation to the next level. If you're used to being the big guy on campus, you're not the big guy on campus anymore.
That's true.
You're starting over fresh.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Brady said it best, and he said that the biggest issue is these rookies who are getting drafted in the first round, they're not sitting in behind anybody. He was right. And we had all kind of been saying that before he said it publicly, but who am I to disagree with the GOAT of the postseason? I will never call him the GOAT, but I will call him the GOAT of the postseason.
Right. Exactly. Well, Jen, we got to wrap it up here, but we'll get you on. We got a full show, but thank you so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yes, sir. And we got to get you on my show too, Chris.
I'll work my tail
Nice
off.
meeting you, Jen.
Nice to meet you, George. Bye, Matt.
Say bye.
I'll come on your show again real soon, Jen.
No.
Right.
What?
Good luck with your show, Jen.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye, sweetie.
That's Jen Lewis from the Three Tricks in the Pod podcast. We're bringing in the head coach of Mount St. Mary's, so we could be on time at 7:15 for our big Orange Bowl thing. Coach Lynn is joining us. Coach, thanks for joining us tonight, and congratulations on that big win against Miami a couple weeks
appreciate
ago.
it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's funny that you guys beat Miami, and then the coach decided to hang it up afterwards. So I guess you knocked them out, pretty much.
I guess so. I guess we are a trivia question anecdote someday.
Yeah.
But great. It's certainly a great win for us in our program.
Yeah, you haven't beaten an ACC school since 1995. That's a long time.
Yeah, I was not very old then.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, tomorrow, I think you guys go on the road this week, and you got a home game against Sacred Heart. So what do you guys have to do on these two games coming up?
Yeah, I mean, conference play, the games come quick, and the biggest thing is we got to get better between now and Friday when we play Manhattan. We've got to continue to improve our defensive rebounding, especially to make sure that we're physically tough enough to hang in the MAC over this long slate that we have. But we're trending in the right direction, but definitely have a lot of work to do to continue to improve our team.
That's cool. Matt, we're going to start off with you. Go ahead. You have a question for Coach?
Yeah, Coach. So congrats on that big win and everything.
Thank you.
And so with that being said, your big win that you had, how are you going to mentally prepare your team? Because you see a lot of teams that do have these big wins, and then the week after or the next game that they play, they struggle and everything. So how are you preparing your team mentally?
Yeah, one of the things we've talked about, throughout our season as higher moments have come up, and this is no different, is, do we want this to be, the highlight of our season or one of the highlights, a highlight? And so, we're constantly talking to our players about the bigger goals that we have and the bigger, aspirations and things that this team can achieve. And so, it's really easy to, get drunk on success or whatever analogy you want to use. But we try to meet those things head on. We have a lot of conversation about it and are constantly pushing just to try to improve and to try to build on the things we've done.
Exactly. Adam, you have a question?
I do. And, can I say, congratulations as well for knocking off Miami. And what does it say for, you guys as a whole conference for, the MAC to knock off an ACC team like Miami?
Yeah, I mean, it's college basketball, right? We see these sort of things. They're not as rare as maybe we want them to be. But we all put our shoes on the same way, and one night, anybody can beat anybody, and that's what makes our game so much fun, right? What makes the NCAA tournament so much fun is that for one day, it doesn't matter whether you're Mount St. Mary's or Miami or Duke or Carolina, one day you've got to beat that team that's in front of you. And, it's great, that we were able to do that and get kind of a marquee win for us and for our league. But what it means is that, we got good players down here, and we've got a good group of guys that have experience, that are bought in, that are unselfish. And, they're able to compete no matter who is up across from them.
That's true. George, you got a question?
Yeah, so Coach, I'm going to use kind of a recent football event and use it for your win versus a loss. Notre Dame loses to NIU, right, and then they go on a crazy streak, right, and now they're going to the Orange Bowl. You beat a team in Miami, and it's a different type of energy to use, right? You tell your guys, we beat one of the best teams out there. And now you can use that as every game you just got to play like it was Miami. And that's to me would be the message.
Yeah, no doubt. It is certainly a confidence builder, especially, in my first year here. The guys have, by and large, really bought into how we want to do things, the culture that we've built, the fun that we have every day. But when you get a big win like that, it kind of cements all those lessons in their mind, and it gives them confidence in the things that, our coaching staff is telling them every day that they work, right? That they work on the biggest stage. And so, you get a big win like that. Now you go into the next game and you can kind of leverage that win to help drive home some points, to help you keep improving. Because at the end of the day, I would trade that win that we had against Miami and just about every win we've had all year for 3 wins in March, right? So we can go to the NCAA tournament, and we're in a one-bid league. So that's, the only thing that matters is how we play in Atlantic City in March.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have to build on this. We've got to continue to improve, but we also got to take the confidence that we've gained, from our non-conference in general, best non-conference in the history of Mount St. Mary's basketball. There's a lot of confidence to be gained by our guys, and, to hopefully springboard us into a heck of a run in the MAC here over the next 2 months.
Yeah. Well, I do have to ask you a question. This is your first year. This is not even your full year yet. What's been working in your non-conference is helping you guys get ready for this MAC schedule? Because I know you guys played George Mason, you played Miami, beat Miami. You did a lot of road, home games and on the road. It's just just talk about your non-conference schedule helping with conference play. Yeah,
we've been really tested. We've played tough. Obviously, we've played 4 higher level schools, in Maryland and Georgetown and Mason and Miami. But we also played some really tough mid-majors. Went on the road and beat Bucknell in double overtime. Went on the road and beat Howard. It was one of the best teams in the MEAC. And, we've had a couple really good home wins. And, it's, again, helped us build a ton of confidence going into conference play that, we can battle with anybody. We're a team that's really deep. So we've won 9 games this year. In all 9 of those games, we've had 4 guys in double figures. And in 8 of the 9, we've had 5 guys or more in double figures. And, our depth has really shown throughout the non-conference. It's definitely something that we'll be able to rely on throughout conference play to help us, no matter what teams throw at us, we've got enough depth to combat that.
Yeah. So, regarding the MAC conference, we all know how good the MAC conference is. We've seen how good they are come NCAA tournament time. So, who are some of the teams that, besides you, are looking strong going into conference play?
Yeah, it's been a pretty solid non-conference for most of the league. Marist is riding a big winning streak right now. Merrimack, is new to the league, and they're off to a great start. But it's deep. Going through it, I haven't watched. I don't get too far ahead. I don't watch too many teams outside the one we have coming up next. But just looking at records and things like that, it seems like there's 7 or 8 teams that all have a chance to be up near the top of the league, competing for a title in the regular season, and certainly have a chance to win multiple games in the conference tournament once we get there.
Exactly. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you guys have a great trip to Manhattan and pull out a win and have a good, perfect week this week.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, talk to you soon. See you.
Good luck for the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, that's Coach Lynn, who head coach of Mount St. Mary's. Before we introduce this next guy, Adam, let's play a classic clip. You probably know this real well from the days he was on CBS.
Back to the 2-0, now the 2-1. Line drive and a base hit! Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe! Safe at the plate! The Braves go to...
All right. So, Adam, welcome in the next guest.
I will. Our next guest is a living legend and a Hall of Famer. He has called all 4 major sports in his career. He has done the ML. He has covered the College World Series in Omaha. He has been a hole announcer in golf, the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. His father was a legend up in Boston with the Boston Globe, and now he heads to South Beach for the first college football playoff game on Thursday night between Penn State and Notre Dame. So joining us on the phone is someone I grew up watching and listening to while living in New Hampshire. He's a legend. It's Sean McDonough. So, Sean, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It is truly an honor to have you on our show. And what was it like to call Red Sox games back in the day with the legend and Jerry Remy?
Oh, he was the best. Loved Jerry. We miss him every day. He's one of the great baseball analysts of all time and a great guy and a dear friend. And it's sad that he died as young as he did. I would encourage people not to smoke cigarettes if they can avoid that really bad habit. And yeah, he was the best.
That's yeah. He's one of the best announcers in baseball. It's like if you listen to Sean, if you listen to Red Sox games, you know his voice. Like me growing up as a Met fan, knowing Bob Murphy and Lindsey Nelson and Ralph Kiner, and George is a big Yankee guy, so he knows about Mel Allen and Phil Rizzuto and all those people. So people, and down here in Baltimore too, you got Chuck Thompson and John Miller, who was here for a while. So it's always cool to hear these voices of summer, knowing and your voice too, knowing that your voice of every genre, every sport that is in a different part of the season. Yeah.
Well, what do they say? Jack of all trades, master of none. That probably applies to me. But Jerry really was a legend and incredibly popular in New England. And you mentioned some other baseball announcers, and I think by and large, the baseball announcers tend to be the most popular with the fan bases because they're on every night from April till September, October. And after a while, you kind of feel like you know them, their personality, their sense of humor, their storytelling ability. And, I think a lot of people in New England was like Jerry was their friend.
Right, exactly. Let's bring in Jarrod Prugar, who covers Penn State. So we're going to talk Orange Bowl here with you tonight. So, Jarrod, say hello to Sean. I know you probably hear him a lot on TV, so say hello.
Yeah, listen, I thought for sure that you guys were trying to troll me with the Sid Bream and the Pirates clip, knowing that I cover the Pirates as well and the alternate curve for their prospects for Yalton and Muir. But it's an honor to be on the call with Sean. I didn't expect to be on there with him tonight, but I'm excited to kind of see the Orange Bowl and see what Penn State's able to do against Notre Dame.
Exactly. So, Sean, let's start with you. You were down in New Orleans. I know a tragic event on January 1st. I heard about it. I was at work, and Matt and Adam and everybody else told me like the game got moved. What was your psyche about that whole day? Because people don't realize you were down there, and you were getting yourself ready for a game to broadcast, and they're telling you we're going to move it tomorrow night. So, what was your psyche for that whole situation?
Yeah, well, a lot of different emotions. Obviously, the biggest one was, sadness. First of all, I woke up on New Year's Day to an email from our ESPN security folks. They were doing a wellness check, making sure me and everybody else on our crew, and it's a lot of people, were okay. I didn't even know, why they were asking. And then, all we knew in the early morning was that there had been some sort of incident on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, but didn't know any of the details. And then obviously as the details emerged, it was really, really tragic more than anything else. So, you're all fired up to be down there and do the game. And then you realize in the grand scheme of things, the game isn't that important when you're talking about massive loss of life and terrorism and, evil and all the things that went into it. So kind of had a feeling early in the day that the game wasn't going to be played on New Year's Day. And then, they made the decision to play it the next day, and I think that was the right decision. And fortunately, the game went on without incident, and Notre Dame played well. They deserved to win.
Yeah. Now you get a chance to see them go down to South Beach to play a Penn State squad who basically went to the desert and took care of the best running back in the country in Boise State. And now these two teams have never played each other since 2017. But it's the first time they're in a bowl game since 1976 playing against each other.
Yeah, obviously, all four of the teams left are some of the traditional powers in the history of college football. And I think this is a great matchup. Obviously, massive fan bases and a lot of national interest. I think two pretty evenly matched teams, two teams that are similar in a lot of ways, play really good defense. They're tough, they're physical, they're well coached. And, I'm eager to watch it. I think it's really a toss-up game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Jarrod, do you have a question for you? Because you're the guest. You have a question for Sean?
For Sean, I mean, what have you seen really from Penn State recently that's got them to this point? I think to get where they've been after losing to Ohio State, I think this has been pretty impressive seeing them on my end. But what have you seen on your end?
Yeah, really just kind of immersing myself in it, because ESPN and ABC, we don't have the Big Ten anymore. We didn't have any of their games during the regular season. I saw several of them on TV, and now I've been sitting here for the past couple of days watching the tapes, particularly the recent games. I think the the things that really jump out at you, a lot of really good players. The tight end is a great player. We talked to Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame coach, today, and he said Warren might be the best player at any position in college football, period. So I'm looking forward to watching him play in person. You watch him on tape. He's obviously a handful. Two really good running backs, quarterback that looks like he's playing his best football right now. I think one of the big questions in the game will be the health of some of the star players. Will Abdul Carter for Penn State be healthy and effective? And is Jeremiah Love, the terrific running back for Notre Dame, going to be, close to 100%? I don't think he's going to be 100% battling a knee injury, but to me, those are a couple of the most important storylines heading in.
Exactly. George, you're also the Notre Dame guy. Let's do it with George first, and Matt, who likes his Irish as well. So, George, go right ahead.
So, Sean, I got to say, you made a comment, I believe it was in the game at Notre Dame. You were all giddy to be able to cover a game because it wasn't on NBC. We need to get you over to NBC to cover all of our games.
Well, we've been pretty good luck. I mean, when you have a broadcast team that's McDonough, McElroy, and McGrath, you would think the Irish would probably fare pretty well because we have three mix, and Katie George is going to be with us this week, and we've joked that she's going to be Katie McGeorge for this broadcast. But even though we're all Irish, we're going to be totally impartial and straight down the middle, and all we really care about is a great game. But it was really fun to do a game at Notre Dame Stadium, as you said. Unless you work for NBC, you haven't broadcast a game there on TV since 1990. So,
yep.
To be the first non-NBC crew to do that in 34 years, whatever it is, and then also just to have it be the first college football playoff game on a campus ever. Yeah, that would have been historic in and of itself. But to have it be at Notre Dame, there's just been so much college football history over the years. I think it was really fitting that the first playoff game on a campus was there.
Exactly.
So, Sean, I got to say, the color commentary and the coverage and the insight that you folks deliver during the game is just amazing. You let the game play out. You talk at the right points in time. But what I've heard from the folks is they enjoy the game because there's not a constant chatter like you hear with a lot of other broadcasters. So on behalf of the Irish fan base, thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a real compliment, and it's important. I have said many times when I talk to sports broadcasting classes, particularly when I go back to Syracuse and talk with a lot of young people who want to be play-by-play people. I think it was Pat Summerall who had the line that nobody ever complained that the announcers didn't talk enough. And, I really think that's true, especially in today's day and age with the great pictures and the great audio. People like the little breaks and, they like to have time just to kind of hear the natural sound and take in the pictures. So we make a real effort not to have it be wall-to-wall talk. You want to be talking when you need to be talking about something, but there's nothing wrong with some silence every now and then too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
And the last part I had for you, Sean, is for years I've been talking about Notre Dame and covering them from the press box, that I've been looking for them to become and have this, what they call the triple threat. It's been a very long time, and I heard you folks alluding to it in the broadcast. I'm like, Sean was listening to me. I was like, Sean McDonough is saying what I've been saying. You don't know who's going to get the ball, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that's true. They have a number of different weapons. Obviously, they have, those two running backs who do most of the ball carrying from that position, but the third down back, Aeneas Williams, is really good in that role. Obviously, Riley Leonard's a dual threat. They have good tight ends. Mitchell Evans in particular is a threat in the passing game. They have, I don't think it's a great wide receiver core, but it's really good, and they have a lot of guys who perform different roles very well. I think Jordan Faison's the guy who's come on lately, and has been a playmaker for them. So, they have a lot of ways that they can hurt you. I just think, they play complementary football. You talk about you hear people talk about that a lot, but they really do. I mean, Mike Denbrock was talking about his play calling in the Georgia, and he didn't want to do anything too elaborate because he knew the defense, was having a great game. It was pretty well holding Georgia with the backup quarterback in the game for the Bulldogs in check. So, that's the way you should coach. Why take chances when you have a 10-point lead and your defense is pretty much stifling the other team?
Exactly. I agree. Matt, you got a question for Sean? Go right ahead, big guy.
Yeah, Sean. So what does Penn State have to do in order to pull off the victory against Notre Dame to go into the championship game?
Well, I think it's going to be a game along the line of scrimmage. I think both coaching staffs, all coaches emphasize the turnover mark. I think that might really be the key in this game. Notre Dame is terrific at taking the ball away. They have 31 takeaways. That's the most in the country. But then, a big part of Penn State's success in these two wins in the playoffs against SMU and Boise State have been the takeaways. And they've had 7 takeaways in 2 games, including 6 interceptions. So I think the team that wins the turnover battle, it very well might be the deciding factor. And then I think, the health of Carter, as I said before, will be huge. If he's healthy and able to go, then he's a big difference maker, particularly as a pass rusher. Not quite as much against the run. But I think that Penn State also has to hold its own in special teams, because that's one place where it seems like, Penn State, Notre Dame has made a big play in every game. They had the kickoff return for a touchdown against Georgia. They run a bunch of fakes successfully this year. Their field goal kicker looks like he's fully healthy. He made 3 field goals of 40 plus. So I don't think Penn State has to win the special teams areas, but they can't really be taken advantage of in that area.
Mm-hmm. I think Jarrod has the last question for you, Sean. So Jarrod, go finish up, big guy. Go ahead.
Sean, the biggest thing, how you mentioned the special teams battle, but how do you view the quarterbacks with Riley Leonard and Drew Aller? Both are seemingly playing some of their best football, with Leonard doing it with his legs, Aller doing it with his arms. It might not have looked that way really on the stat sheet against Boise State, but it does look like he's playing some really good football right now.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. They're both playing probably their best football of the year. Riley Leonard's come a long way. Obviously, when they lost the second game of the year to Northern Illinois, everybody thought, most people thought it was going to be catastrophic for them, but he looked like he was lost, trying to learn a new system and dealing with, being the quarterback at Notre Dame. So from where he was then to where he is now, it's just remarkable, in terms of his confidence level. And I think the confidence has the most to do with why he's playing so well, that and with his comfort with the system and with his new teammates. And, Drew Aller, the same thing. It just you turn on the tape. I haven't watched every game this season, but you keep reading that, he's playing as well as he has, and that's what the coaches have been saying. And, he definitely is playing at a high level. So I think that's what it, obviously to get to this point, you have to be playing pretty well. But I do think in both cases, you have 2 teams that are really playing their best football of the season right now.
That's true. Well, Sean, I want to let you go. I know you're a busy guy, but I hope you have a safe trip down to Florida. Get some warm weather, big guy, because it's pretty cold here in Maryland. I know you're probably up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. It's probably pretty cold too as well. So
I'm actually smart enough to get away to Arizona in the winter. So
that's good.
I'm sitting here. It's a little chilly by our standards, so it's probably about 65 right now. But I'm traveling tomorrow down to Miami for the game, and really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys, and Happy New Year.
You too, and thanks
Happy
for
New Year, Sean.
My pleasure. Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
That was the great Sean McDonough, who I remember doing Red Sox games, and he still does Red Sox games on like 35 to 40 radio, Red Sox games on the radio. It's called He Made This New Englander. I can say I checked off my bucket list. I talked with Sean McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, true. Jarrod, do you have anything else to chime in?
No, the biggest thing, I think that was really cool. But just like he said, for Penn State and Notre Dame, it's going to be a very, very close matchup, I think, in my opinion. They're very, very evenly matched. It's going to come down to, I think, quarterback play with Aller and Riley Leonard, who can play the best. out of their greatest, but out of the two of them, and then the return of Abdul Carter. Penn State played a really good game against Boise State, even without him for 3 quarters. And if you look at his Twitter, I mean, he's doing the Darth Vader and back to type stuff. I think he's going to be playing. How big of an impact can he have, and making sure that he's a nuisance for Leonard. And then on the other side, special teams. If Penn State can make sure they have contained on kickoff coverages, then that obviously neutralizes a big weapon for the Fighting Irish.
That's true.
Jarrod, these are 2 iconic teams teaming up on Thursday night. Let's be honest, right? These are it's Notre Dame and Penn State. They both have had, as Chris reminded me the other day, Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship since 1988, and I live with it every day, and that's fine. It's the way the game has gone. But Notre Dame and Penn State are 2 iconic teams, and it's going to be a good game. So that's the most important part to me, is that it's a good game.
Yeah,
and not a blowout.
100%.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jarrod, I got a question for you.
Go ahead, man.
What does Penn State have to do? Because it seems, when Notre Dame has really played fantastic on the special teams, and they've really been great with the turnover margin. So what does Penn State have to do to have the special teams and the turnover margin in Penn State's favor?
I mean, the biggest thing is just keep playing the defense that they're playing. Of course, Notre Dame isn't really comparable to SMU and Boise State. But again, those 2 teams made the playoffs, as did these guys as well. And there's a reason why Penn State and Notre Dame are still playing. But the biggest thing for me to be able to do that is obviously the kickoff coverage unit. It's been a while since Penn State's been really hurt in that department. They have Gabe Nwosu is a really good place kicker for them. Biggest thing for them is just making sure they just stay within themselves. Typically when Penn State gets hurt, it's because they try to do too much, either on special teams or offense or defense or what have you. And if they stay within themselves and play within their scheme, I think they have a really good shot to take down the Fighting Irish on Thursday.
Exactly. And you got to realize Penn State hasn't won a national title since the game in Arizona against the Miami Hurricanes, my first ever college football game I watched for TV. And my brother was a Miami Hurricane fan, so I remember, the 9 interceptions by Testaverde, and how Penn State's defense kind of screwed up Miami a little bit, all the different schemes, and it was a classic game back then.
Yeah. Hey, Jarrod, I do have one more question to ask you. Ohio State and Penn State they played this year in state college, and Ohio State came out on top. Do you think we could see that rematch happen for the national title, given the way both teams have been performing during the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I honestly do. I think if Penn State can get past Notre Dame, I think they do end up playing Ohio State. Ohio State's playing some spirited football. I mean, I think, and I said this on my podcast, the Lashing Out podcast, saying that when Michigan beat them, they woke up a sleeping monster, because now everybody's talking, but nothing has been going on other than people talking about, should Ryan Day be fired for losing to Michigan 4 years in a row? And honestly, I don't even know if winning a national championship still satisfies that fan base, because they still lost to Michigan and on a down year as two score favorites. But I think that is very possible. Penn State, since that loss to Ohio State, has been a much different team. They're running a lot more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, and their 2 tight ends in Luke Reynolds and Tyler Warren. Obviously, Tyler Warren's one of the best players in the country, if not one of the best remaining, given the way that he's been playing and the impact that he has on the field, whether he's getting the ball or whether he's blocking in the backfield or as a wildcat quarterback or wherever that Penn State has him lined up. But I do think that is a very strong matchup, and it's probably a nice little side bit of hell for Penn State fans, going from Notre Dame to then playing your ultimate thorn in your side in Ohio State, a team that has had James Franklin's number for quite some time.
That's true. Well, Jarrod, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you enjoy the are you heading down to South Beach, or are you going to stay home and watch it from the next friendly confines?
No, I am heading down to South Beach. I head down to meet up with a buddy of mine on Wednesday in Richmond. We're flying down from Richmond to Miami early Thursday morning, and then I'll be there for the game, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on, and thanks for joining the interview. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. See you. Bye.
Jared.
All right. It's Jarrod Prugar, who that was Sean McDonough with Jarrod Prugar previewing the Orange Bowl. We do have a change in the schedule due to the weather going on. Marc Edwards is going to join us next Thursday because he has to work and he's having travel issues. So we're going to put him on next Thursday night. So that's a little program change. So
He can
anyway,
run, but he can't hide.
huh?
He can run, but he can't hide.
I know. Well, everybody's dealing with weather issues. This whole Blair thing going, except for you, dude. You didn't get any snow. Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's just cold. Chris, it's just cold down here in North Carolina, and it's called people have said it could snow Friday night and on Saturday. So it's like we know when they call for snow here, people panic,
I know.
And you guys know where I work, so yeah, you know how much fun I'm gonna have about Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, people panic here over a flake of snow.
Well, yeah, I believe that, Matt. Trust me. Oh, it's called. They get the milk, the bread, the eggs, and they probably buy the alcohol too. I get it.
Definitely alcohol here.
I believe that too, George. I believe that too, my friend.
Nice. So did you guys watch the Ravens game on Saturday? And did you see that big guy, Michael Pierce, catching the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got the clip. Let's watch it real quick. I want to watch. This is something I was going to bring up tonight. So here it is.
That catch does give Judy share of the record, 90th of the season. Ozzie Newsome did it a couple times for the Browns. Zappy. Oh, big foul touchdown. My goodness. Michael Pierce.
Don't kneel down, Big Pierce.
What are you doing?
Don't kneel down.
I was about to go crazy as the 365-pounder was going to run down the field.
You see Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator, just running down the sideline. Look at the whole
you get a chance for an epic moment. I mean, it was nice enough to pick.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Take that thing to the house.
Hey, I know my guys in the studio, Marcus Spears with big man ball, and put it on the top of the list.
Boy, he hit the knee quick. He's like, no, I'm not going to try.
Look at him.
I'm not going to try running this thing.
Look at him. That's awesome.
Boy, he hit both knees, too, not just one. He hit both knees.
Veteran from Stanford. I don't know. Is 365 conservative for him?
Oh, my goodness. You're going to see him, and he's right here in the middle of the screen. He's literally playing over the nose. Look at him drop out of there, him and Brett Urban together.
Look at him. Come on, baby.
Nah, I'm just going to sit it down. I'm going to sit it down right here.
What's the record for the longest pick six by a 350-plus pounder?
That's too good right there. The sideline reaction is even better.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. It reminded me of Buckone Colon, the guy from the Mets, when he hits a home run against San Diego. It took him like 45 minutes to run around the base.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the NFL on Saturday on ESPN. So this week, the Ravens taking on the Steelers on Saturday night. So that's going to be a very interesting
We
battle.
win that game, by the way.
Yeah, they should.
Steelers are going to win that game.
Steelers are going to win it. Well, you can't beat somebody. When you play each other 3 times in the season, it's really hard to try to beat them twice. And
you beat them when it counts.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, George.
Yeah. Hey, my Chiefs are sitting at home waiting for somebody to come to Kansas City.
Hey, Chris, and it's called we could face you, in the AFC Championship game,
Oh yeah, Bills and Chiefs. Yeah, this time in Kansas City.
Yeah, and then hey Chris, George, you didn't know this, but when the Bills played the Chiefs in the regular season, when Chris and I made a bet about the game, the Bills won. So when Chris and I were in Charlotte for the ACC championship game, he bought me dinner. Didn't you, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, he bought you dinner?
Yes, he did.
He still owes me.
Well, hey, you got to get to the East Coast. No, I got to go at your neck of the woods. I'm trying to get out to Indiana, and it's not working these days. Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to go to Indiana for. Go see. We got Mike Aulby coming up in a few minutes. I'd like to spot by his bowling alley. So we have a. So
I mean,
Chris, you got a place to stay.
I know that. I got to get out there. I got to get to a game. It's like
I've always wanted to go to I've always wanted to go to a Notre Dame game after watching it on TV for so many years. Chris, I think you and I, Chris, you and me,
yeah,
Chris, you, me, and Matt may have to do a road trip to Notre Dame soon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could do a show. We could do a show live from here.
Yeah, maybe I can do a game, maybe a baseball game, because Notre Dame baseball is pretty
good. I totally agree, but we should do a football game. We should do a football game.
Yeah, we should do Florida State Notre Dame.
We should do like a big game. The four of us next year.
Heck, I'm game.
Well, look at the schedule.
If the PBA Tour's not going to Portland, Maine, I'm game.
Well, so Chris, you gotta go ahead and make sure that you can go ahead and go to Indiana.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Trying to figure out how to get out there. It's like
Hey, Chris. We could. We could do us four against Mike Aulby.
We should, Chris. Easy. We'll just take the airline right to South Bend, or whatever nearest airport they have.
South Bend.
Well, I'm looking at Notre Dame's schedule,
right?
Well, here's the schedule next year for the Irish. They got Boise State at home on Saturday, October 4th. Texas A&M, Purdue, Navy, North Carolina State, and Syracuse. Maybe Dan Vittori might go out there.
What are the home games?
That's the home games. NC State, Syracuse, Navy, USC, Boise State, and Purdue, and Texas A&M.
Hey, I'm game to go to. Hey, Chris, you, me, Matt, and Dan Tortora, we all go to Syracuse, Notre Dame. There you go.
Yeah, well, it all depends on what time of year that is. You
don't want to come out here.
Or we can put in for the Texas A&M, the Aggie game.
Okay, we can do that.
You mean Coach Mike?
We'll all go to George's house. We'll just tell his lovely wife, sorry, we're invading for the weekend. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She'll love us really much there, George. She'll be like, you'll be in the doghouse for the rest of the month for that.
I will be.
Yeah. You will be, George.
Yeah, but anyway, so looking at their schedule next year, it's funny that they could have played Boise State if Boise State knocked off Penn State. That would have been pretty cool because they're supposed to play them next year without their star running back. So that's probably going to be a win, because Boise State's going to be back to being normal like everybody else. Because they lost their quarterback to he went into the transfer portal to Texas El Paso. I guess he wants to go to the Sun Bowl for for games.
Yeah, I guess.
Warmer weather. Nothing going on. We don't have hate for El Paso because we have our good friend Bernie, the Sun Bowl director, who was a good friend of ours. So I like to get out there too. So there's tons of things I like to do.
Yeah, it's called, I'd like to go. It's called. I would like to go. It's called. I want to go see Oklahoma and Temple.
Mm-hmm. They're going to Philadelphia.
Or maybe go see Towson State at Norfolk State.
Mm-hmm.
What would be awesome to see the Red River rivalry.
Oh,
that would be great. So, Chris, you got a lot of things you need to do.
I know. Hey, George, what's your take on Michael Vick being head coach at Norfolk State, and then you have Deshaun Jackson up in Delaware State? I guess we're trying to do the MEAC is trying to bring people in.
Well, I'm not a fan of Michael Vick. Never have been. Well, not since the dog thing. People say he's done his penance, whatever. It doesn't go away. So,
right.
It is with him. So,
I just think it's funny that these two schools just picking NFL stars to be their head coaches, and none of them has head coaching experience. I think Deshaun Jackson has a high school whatever, but Michael Vick just I don't know what he can do. Yeah.
All they do, Chris, all they're going to do is laugh all the way to the bank.
Oh that's what it is.
That's what it becomes.
Yeah. We had Coach Schimrick on from Towson last week, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first game of the year, and we played Norfolk State. That'll be cool going down and meet Michael Vick on the field." I was like, "Yeah, and I'm thinking, I was like, yeah, you don't have to pay money to meet him. You just see him on the field." Yeah.
And ask for an autograph.
Yeah, maybe after the game he'll give you a signed jersey or something. Like, "Hey, coach, here you go."
Maybe he'll take his jacket off and he'll give it to him and sign it.
Yeah, that's true. Man, those places must be selling massive tickets now.
Oh yeah,
they're taking the lead of Colorado.
Yeah,
because Deion Sanders had no coaching experience. They're like, if it could work for Colorado, we can work for us. But he's still not Deion Sanders.
Right.
That's true. Oh yeah. Update on the FCS National Championship game in Frisco, Texas. With 6:45 left to go in the second quarter, North Dakota State has a 14-0 lead on Montana State Bobcats out of the Big Sky Conference. So,
and that's Division II, right?
Yeah. Yeah. North Dakota State should be going to the Pac-12. Yeah, the new Pac-12. They're so good in that subdivision, like James Madison. Yeah, it's time for them to move up.
Oh yeah, I mean,
well, let me tell you, Chris.
State did, before they went, when they were in 14-3 now, North Dakota State beats Montana State.
Okay.
So
I was talking to my wife when we were down at the DePaul football games. That's a team that should be moving up to Division II, because you just can't go from Division III to Division I football. It's just not going to happen overnight, especially for a small school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they are an awesome Division III football team.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, I was sitting there, and you sit back and you reflect. They played well. They would do well in Division II.
Mm-hmm.
All of the sports. I mean, it's just not football. They're good in all the sports that they have.
Nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And like you said, you guys, your daughters at that university, they knocked off Johns Hopkins, right? Yeah, and that's a good school here in Maryland.
Yes. Yep. So, no. They lost to Johns Hopkins.
Oh, they lost to Johns Hopkins. Okay, I thought
Johns Hopkins beat them they beat them on a 4th down penalty.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
DePaul was knocking on the door of the goal, and then they got a penalty that ended the game.
Yeah.
But they could have gone on to the Division III National Championship game,
which was on last night by North Central over Union, if I remember right.
No, Division III I thought wasn't Division III Ferris State
and Valdosta State.
Huh?
I think it was Valdosta State and Ferris State for the national.
Yes, and Ferris State won.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So, you look. I mean, I go back to the days when I was on the show more often. In SMU, remember they were kept out, right? Was it SMU? They came into the league and they told they couldn't go into the division championship because they were new teams, and that they had to wait a year.
Oh,
or was that James Madison?
James Madison. Remember they had to play.
James Madison.
Yeah, they had to accept the waiver, and they're like, because Madison was like 12-1 or something, and they're like,
yes,
why can't we go to a bowl game? But that's the same thing that's going to happen with Delaware going to Conference USA next year. And that to me, I feel like Delaware should have just stayed in the CAA because they don't have the facilities for Conference USA. I'm sorry.
I know.
The stadium up there in Newark is so old. They need to make a brand new one. They just they updated the press box and the training facility now. But okay, good for you. But I don't think it's still a traffic nightmare up there in Newark.
Well, Chris, they demolished Chris, they did demolish the Penn State press box
thank God.
at Beaver Stadium.
Yeah. George, that press box for Penn State was like, it's funny. They had so much money that, to me, I think they should have done it years ago. So they had to get like a $700 million somebody donated to knock it down. It looked like one of those like high school Beller High School, Matt knows, like the old, really was asbestos and all that garbage. Yeah, because Matt was there. Matt knew what we were talking about, right?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I do. There's all kinds of junk in yeah. Oof.
And they're supposed to get that thing up way before the next September, the new press box. I'm like, okay, you got to deal with snow. How the heck are you going to build that?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're still waiting for Mike Aulby. I don't know if he's having technical issues. I just texted him and see if he was okay or whatever. So
George, so how will it feel if the Irish do pull off and win the national championship, first time since '88?
What was that? I'm sorry.
I said, well, how will it feel for you if the Irish do win the national championship?
Well, as you know, you get to get that monkey off your back, right?
Yeah.
You finally get that. It's been so close, and even when you think about it, all they got to do is, even if they get to the national championship game, right? It's been a while. I mean, the last time they got, I believe the last time they got to the national championship game was against Ohio State.
Well, no.
It was a BCS game, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was against Alabama, and they lost. Was that national championship or the semifinal? What?
No, that was semifinal. We're going back to 2008, 2009 time frame or something like that, where Notre Dame played Ohio State for the national championship, and that's when Manti Te'o had his thing going on.
Yes, yeah, with phony girlfriend.
Yep, with that whole situation.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame wins a national championship if Manti Te'o doesn't have, things going on there. Mm-hmm. But I think the last time Notre Dame played for a national championship, it was against Ohio State. So that would be it's a way different team. You can't look at the two teams and you can't compare the last time they played. The game's totally different even now. I think it would be good for the program. I just need the fan base just needs it, and I understand that I don't live and die by Notre Dame wins and losses, like some fans do. But for me, I think it'd be just great for the program. It would be great for the area, because let's be honest, not a lot of good news comes out of South Bend.
True. Well, I mean, Notre Dame is, it's called, when you look at Notre Dame in other sports besides football, Notre Dame has always had a really good college baseball team. One of their former coaches, Paul Maneri, was the head coach at LSU, and LSU won a national title. Notre Dame was always, when it comes to women's basketball, Hannah Hidalgo, is doing really good for the Fighting Irish in the ACC right now. So
fencing and lacrosse. Notre Dame has become a lacrosse and fencing sport.
Yes, Notre Dame. Oh, yes, they have. Notre Dame is a hotbed for men's lacrosse. Oh, are they good in men's lacrosse?
And fencing.
Yes, and
don't forget fencing.
Right.
Yes.
Back-to-back national championships.
Yes, Notre. Yes,
three-peat. They three-peated, I think.
Well, also they're good in women's basketball too. Because you had McGruff. What's her name? She's off. And then you got the new lady who's taking over, and she's
Coach Ivy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but Notre Dame, it's like Notre Dame basically has that stigma of the LA Dodgers. They have to win a championship. Yeah.
Well, you got to. I mean, they're not the Jets, right?
Right.
The Jets have a longest streak in any sport of getting to a champion, winning a championship, right?
Yes.
So they're definitely not the Jets.
No.
I just think that they just need to get the monkey off their back, and it's still not going to be good enough for all the other folks in the other fan bases, because they're going to say that Notre Dame doesn't play anybody,
Right.
And if there's a year you can't say that, they've beat 7 top 25 teams this year.
Did. That's true, George. That's true.
The numbers don't lie.
No, they don't.
I mean, you could say that they lost to NIU, but they don't get to where they are today without that loss to NIU.
I'll agree. Yeah. And it's like, look at Riley Leonard has done at Notre Dame after coming over from Duke. And Riley Leonard, he was good at Duke, but now at Notre Dame, it's like, he's been impressive. He's got players around him that he can.
He's got
rely
swagger.
on.
He's got swagger.
And
When you interrupt Coach Freeman in a press conference to tell him that he's being humbled, he's humbling himself. Being around those players like I was for a period of time, there was never that relationship, this fun relationship between a coach and a quarterback.
True.
And it's not till now.
Well, Adam and George, I hate to tell both of you, but Riley Leonard needs to throw more than 90 passing yards in order to beat Penn State and also Ohio State. Because if he throws that against Penn State, they're going to lose. And if he throws more than that, great. And Notre Dame gets the national championship game. But if he throws only 90 yards against Ohio State, that would be an absolute massacre. So, I mean, Riley Leonard has got to do better in the passing game.
Absolutely agree. They've relied in years past when you look at that guy named BK and you look at some other coaches. Well, BK has been primarily the guy for the decade. So when you look at him, he didn't let his quarterbacks run, or in the case of Malik Zaire, he says, I don't want you to run, and then all of a sudden he has them running. So it doesn't make sense. But where they have developed their team is he's got legs, and they know, and not to quote ZZ Top, but he knows how to use them.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, with Brian Kelly, dude, Brian Kelly seems like he handcuffs his quarterbacks.
He does,
and I see it. We see it a lot down at LSU. You had McDaniel, Daniels, who's now the quarterback at the Commanders. He was a Heisman, but to me, that should have gone to Jordan Travis if Jordan Travis did not break his leg.
Brian Kelly had nothing to do with that kid getting the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
Nothing at all. And it goes back to your point, Chris. I remember back in a spring game under BK, Malik Zaire's the quarterback, and he had told the referees in that game, if you see Malik going to run, I want you to throw a flag. He wanted his guys to be pocket quarterbacks, but you can't change how the quarterback is going to work during the season. That's stuff that you have to work out.
Right. I agree with you.
So George, did you enjoy Brian Kelly as the head coach of Notre Dame?
I want to make sure I get this right. I think for the time he was the right coach. Okay. When it came to handling situations, it was sometimes very tough. The way he would jump on folks, and I remember one time in a press conference, I asked him a legitimate question, and he jumped on me.
Oh, he did. He did that to me too.
So he jumps on me, but it was a legit question.
Right.
So I think there's a way you got to control your anger, but at the same time, you can't throw your players under the bus.
Well, George, I said the same thing to him after the Alabama game. In the Cotton Bowl, I said if you had I think it's before the Heisman Trophy came out or something like that. I said if you had a vote for the Heisman, does that guy? I think it was Judy. I think Judy was the guy, or whoever wanted for Alabama for the Heisman. And he jumped on me going like, well, I don't have the vote for that. Why you ask me that stupid question? And Nicole heard it in the other room, and Nicole goes, who's that? No offense, who's that a-hole gave you crap on the phone? And I'm like, that's Brian Kelly. She goes, oh, I don't like that guy. I'm like,
see,
okay.
That's the problem. You look at Marcus Freeman and the way he's so composed.
Mm.
He's very composed. He's humbled. Brian Kelly was about Brian Kelly. When we have Marc on next week, okay, ask him how much he was around the locker room during the Brian Kelly years. He's going to tell you it didn't happen because I talked to Jerome Bettis about that. Brian Kelly didn't want folks that were going to steal the lights, steal the moment from him. Okay, so now, and I was hoping we were going to actually talk about this with Sean, but when you look at the locker room for Notre Dame, who do you have in there? You have Brian Urlacher's kid, right?
Oh,
you got Howard Cross's kid, right?
Yeah.
You got Jerome Bettis' kid coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have these folks that can go and coach and inspire, and that's what they will tell you. We weren't allowed to come into the locker room and inspire these kids. They weren't around the program. When Marcus Freeman came in and took over the program, he opened them up with open arms.
That's what you should do.
That's what you should do. Yeah. These are the guys in your program that had success.
That's right.
And there was no parts of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's something for you, George. I think I have something for you. Hold on, let me load these up for you. Yeah. It's just, you're like, uh-oh.
Chris, you might have to owe George 2 or 3 checks after this one.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to load it up here. I guess Mike's having problems with stuff or something. We'll try to get Mike Aulby sometime next week or so, or when we do it on Thursday.
This is great, though. This roundtable discussion is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
It is.
Yeah. This is. I'm trying to load this up real quick. It takes a little while for the server to do it.
I can't imagine what it is.
Yeah.
All right, here it is. Here's your good friend Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I think it's the first time since I've been here that I'm pretty angry at our football team. And
Coach, is it disappointing when you have Savion Jones kind of really rose up, Aaron Anderson, John Emery, they kind of put you in position? Is it disappointing when those guys perform and you don't get a victory?
Hell yes. I mean, and that's what I said to the team. I said, we had some guys played their butts off tonight, and we're sitting here again. We're sitting here again talking about the same things, about not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous. And it's crazy.
Well, also, here's the thing with Brian Kelly. He never takes – everyone's actually taking responsibility for it, but he normally doesn't take responsibility for what's going on. He blames other people. Like, it was Al Golden's fault with the defense. He doesn't take the initiative or say, hey, I did something wrong. He blames everybody else on it.
That's true.
Well,
That's true, Chris.
But see, Chris, if I had $1 for every time I heard that line about not finishing,
you'd be a rich man.
I wouldn't be having to do my job.
Right.
Oh, I believe that. I believe
Brian,
that, George.
I hate even talk. I struggle to talk about the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, because you know that I don't talk about the name that shall not be mentioned.
Right.
Yep.
But you just sit there and you hear the same thing over and over again, and there comes a point in time you got to look in the mirror.
Right.
And you got to look at yourself and say, self, what am I doing wrong?
Well, it's
self, what do I need to do better?
Right. Well, George is also last year, not this year, but the year before when they played Florida State in Orlando to start the season, he started mouthing off saying, "Oh, we're going to destroy the Knowles and we're going to take them out." And I guess that got to Jordan Travis and Mike Norvell because we put a nice whooping on them. And
he's locker room fodder.
Yeah,
When you
and,
give a
and,
team
and he goes,
macaroni
I didn't say
fodder,
anything like that. And there's like audio from his talk show on Thursday saying to the people at the bar that we're going to go down to Orlando and kick the crap out of the Knowles. Like, come on, dude. Just take ownership for it.
well, that's what I was trying to say. If Penn State stays out of the headlines and doesn't give Notre Dame football any fodder, right, for bulletin board, right, it'll be a game played on the field.
Right.
But if someone comes out, starts mouthing off starting tomorrow, Ryan Day's going to say something if it's Notre Dame, Ohio State. The whole answer back to Ryan Day is just going to be, where's Lou Holtz? Let him go take care of that, and the team will focus on everything else.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, I got to get down to Atlanta. That's going to be a very interesting media day in Atlanta next weekend if that happens, because everybody's going to go right to Ryan Day and go, okay, here's Lou Holtz. Where is he?
Yep.
You guys have another matchup. There is another game going on Friday night, and I did have a chance to talk to the Texas coach, Stark, the other day on the Zoom call last Friday, and I did ask him a question. So let me play the quick clip for him. I asked him, him being the state school of Texas, and I feel like if you're representing your state, we got more pressure on you than anybody in this whole game, because Ohio State's coming in as a traditional road team, and you got Texas, who's basically a traditional home team because it's the state of Texas. So I asked him about the pressure of playing in the Cotton Bowl and representing the state of Texas. So here's the clip I had with him.
Cotton Bowl, with the history of Texas being in the Cotton Bowl, you feel a lot of pressure, or you just feel like there's just another game each week?
I don't necessarily feel pressure upon that. When you take the head job here at the University of Texas, you got to know what you're signing up for. And there's an expectation and a standard here to compete and to win championships, compete for and win championships. And so you acknowledge it, you accept it, and you start charging forward. I think of this as more of a great opportunity to play in the Cotton Bowl and in the semifinals of the college football playoff against an unbelievable opponent in Ohio State. They've got a great fan base. They're going to travel. Their fans played against them in the Rose Bowl and different opportunities. So their fans travel really, really well. And so the challenge for us is to stay composed in that arena. The challenge for our fans is to show up, buy tickets, and support us so that we can make it as tough an environment as we can. Because like I said, we're going to need all those factors in this game. This is the best team in college football, and we're going to have to make sure that we put our best forward to give ourselves a chance to win the game.
So it's going to be an interesting game. But now, George and Adam and Matt, the weather might be a factor in Texas with a traditional ice storm / snowstorm coming in on Thursday. So that's going to probably affect people who are not even there yet to come to the game. Because once you have ice and crap and stuff in Texas, they can't drive in that stuff.
Hey, can we go back to BK for one quick moment?
Sure, go ahead.
I want to share something.
Okay.
Sure.
I shared this the other day, and I just thought that it was classic.
Okay.
So I need to share my screen.
Yeah, it's down to the present button down there.
Yep, share.
Okay.
And
But now it's no longer about just your brand. Your brand has to be backed up with the ability to supplement that with dollars, because that's what we're in. And so you want to get into the portal. If you want to be able to close some of these, you have to have active participation from a donor base. And it can't just be one or two guys. It has to be from all those that want to see the Notre Dames or the Ohio States or the Oregons or the Alabamas do well. They have to be involved. And so that means the LSUs, if they want to be at the top of the food chain, then we have to be involved as well. But now,
I'll stop sharing.
That's okay.
So Chris, He's talking about Notre Dame.
Right.
He slipped. He did not mean to mention Notre Dame. You can't tell me that Notre Dame is giving bigger NIL money than LSU is giving to their players. There's a hint of jealousy there that Notre Dame was coming to play in his backyard.
Right.
And it was something that he wasn't able to do.
And plus, also, dude, you were the one who broke it when he, went to LSU, right? I remember that you were at the airport, right?
I broke it out of Disneyland.
Yeah.
I remember that, George. I remember that. Yeah.
You called me up and you go, dude, I got something, we got to do this. I'm like, okay. And I remember doing it. And I'm thinking, like, he didn't even tell his players he was leaving. He sends a text message. It's like, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
So, but that's just a mindset. And I don't think he's long for LSU.
Hey, if he goes back to South Bend, if he's with LSU, he needs a yeah.
He's not going to be welcome. They will not welcome him back on this campus.
No, I mean, he could go. George, he could go in there in disguise and nobody would notice him. But
it's hard to disguise Brian Kelly.
Yeah. I'm waiting for him to. He just won the Texas Bowl. I'm waiting for him to start mouthing to people like, "Hey, we had a great season this year, and next year we're going to." Yeah, who do they play next year? The opening series. Let's see.
LSU. LSU. Who do they play? All I know is next year Alabama opens up their season versus Florida State.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be, especially with Jalen Miller entering the draft.
That's right. It's because I think he was afraid to play Florida State.
Hey, they got to go to Death Valley, dude, to play Dabo Sweeney and the Clemson Tigers.
Oh, really? That could be a win for Clemson.
Yep. And it's another ACC school, and he doesn't do well against ACC schools.
That's true.
Yeah. What did he?
What's his track record with big games, George?
What? Owen whatever?
Yeah. Well, George, we had the Penn State guy on, the voice of Penn State football, Steve Jones, a couple of weeks ago, and I brought it up like James Franklin can't win big games, and you're making it sound like, oh, he beat Boise and he beat SMU. There weren't big games. This game against Notre Dame is a big game, and if he's going to beat Notre Dame, you got to beat the best. And he has to.
Marcus Freeman has won more big games than Brian Kelly did in the 12 years that he was here.
Right.
Thank you. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
See, so
he's a coach. He's a player's coach.
True.
Right.
That's true. That's true, George. Yes.
Well, I think he.
George, when since you're up in South Bend and everything, and like BK, what you could tell, like he wasn't like the players really didn't mesh well with him, and did BK make any effort to try to try to get closer and try to, develop that team and try to become a player's coach, or no?
He did. And it was the year of Ian Book.
Yes, I remember Ian.
Oh, wow.
It was Ian Book's year.
Yes.
And all I can remember is I was like, wow. I was like, he's reading from Coach's hymnal.
Yes.
And Brian Kelly came out straight out and said it. He goes, I changed my ways. He changed his ways and his approach to the game. He was more open to the players. The door wasn't closed as much, and things like that. He made a concerted effort in the year of Ian Book to go and make that change, which was too late.
True.
Because you got to be that way from day one. And when you see the video of Marcus Freeman being announced to the team as the new head coach, they loved him from day one. They weren't going to play for anybody else but Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Father Jenkins got the message because there was no coach search. There was no go out, look for a coach. They came from within because the players spoke. They said, we want Marcus Freeman.
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
Exactly. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. This has been fun, but I got to get going because I got things to do and all that stuff. But George, thanks for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate you coming back on. And hopefully we can make this a whenever you feel like getting back on the program, anytime you want. We'd love to have you.
My wife says it's a kick in the butt for me to get back doing my own show. So if this is step one, then thank you.
Yeah. So next.
Hey George, before you go, prediction on the Notre Dame and Penn State game. What score do you think it'll be, and who do you think will win?
31-28 Notre Dame.
Okay, and then do you think Ohio's? Because I'm assuming you think Ohio State will win. So do you think the Irish will beat Ohio State in the national championship game?
31-25 Notre Dame.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, we'll be on next Thursday.
You can book it.
Yeah, I forgot next Thursday, 16th, not Monday. So we'll be on next Thursday night. We'll get our schedule set for that national championship game on the 20th. And I think if I could get down to Atlanta for the media day on Saturday, I could probably do that if I could get out, if the weather's good, around here, with all this cold stuff coming. We want to say thank you to our guest tonight, ESPN broadcaster Sean McDonough joining us, head coach of Mount St. Mary's, Coach Lynn joining us, and Nathan Baird from Purdue, who writes for Purdue football, basketball, and our good friend Jen Lewis joining us as well. And we'll try to get hold of Mike Aulby for next week, and we'll definitely have Marc Edwards on next Thursday night at 6:30, the first guest of the show, because with the weather, he's in Missouri right now, so the weather is quite crappy, like everybody else. So we'll leave you tonight on this date in 2016. Mike Piazza was elected to the Hall of Fame on his fourth year ballot. Piazza received 83% of the vote, and he was a 12-time All-Star and a 10-time Silver Slugger. And I'm sorry, but there's him and Gary Carter were probably the two best catchers in the Mets.
We also need to say happy birthday to James Winston.
Oh, James Winston. And it's also Anthony Simonson's birthday as well.
Yes, that's right.
So we'll leave
Adam, you got some crab legs for me?
Crab. George! George!
I love it.
George. No, it's because I don't have any crab legs.
When I played cornhole with him down at the Ed Black Herds Awards, I was just thinking about him. I was thinking, can you give me some crab legs? Seriously?
You know where he.
So the thing is, Chris, no one can say his name and me not mention crab legs.
I know.
Okay?
Because
I'm sitting here watching him. He's out in Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
right. Dude, you need some crab legs. That's the problem.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to mention where he got the crab legs from because it's where I work. So
I know. They had a fruit program going on. So
that's
anyway,
right. I have to.
Yeah.
I said it for you.
Yeah. Well, everybody, if you're out there in the weather, hopefully you do okay with the weather, and we'll see you all next Thursday night. So here is a clip from Mike Piazza. So have a great evening.
Good night, Baird.
Mets have scored 6 runs with 2 away. Piazza rips it. Will it stay fair? Goodbye, home run! Mike Piazza! A 3-run homer! 11-8! And the 1-0, a high drive to center. Bernie back on the track, near the wall, a grand slam. Piazza hit the ball right over the 408-foot sign to dead center. It's a grand slam Piazza blast, and the Mets take a 4-0 lead.
Wagner deals, and a high fly ball, deep right center. This ball is there. Patty, I like that. But Piazza gives the Mets the lead. This is unbelievable. 3-2 New York.
0-1 to Piazza. Swinging a high fly ball, deep left center field. Forget it. The ball game is over. Piazza hits it back into the bleachers in left center field, and the Mets win it in their final turn at bat on a walk-off home run for the second consecutive day.
center field, and Piazza has done it over the bleachers.